I purchased a bundle from Rocky Mountain ATV for my KLX300 that included Tusk side racks, a Tusk top rack, and Tusk pilot bags along with some bottle holders. This video is going to cover my installation experience of the side rack and the top rack. And let me assure you, it was an experience and not an entirely positive one. As with all my videos, if you like it or find it to be helpful, I hope you'll like the video and subscribe to my channel. Let's get on with the installation. So the first step is to remove the factory toolkit that's on the rear fender. I've already done that. All that's required is you remove the two bolts that hold it in place. Super simple. So I pulled this cross brace out of the bubble wrap, and as you can see already there's a paint issue. So I'm going to touch that up before we continue. Alright, I'm using an 8mm socket to remove these seat bolts. So would you believe I'm still on the first step and I can't go any further? And the reason I can't go any further is because these two spacers that are supposed to go in the spaces where I removed the OEM toolkit bolts, as you can see, hopefully, the bores are different sizes. And the one with the smaller bore is too small to accept the bolt that is supposed to go through it. So clearly one of these spacers is wrong. So now I have to wait for Rocky Mountain ATV's tech support to get back to me via email because they were unavailable via phone. And then I'm going to have to wait for them to send me the proper spacer before I can go any further. So right out the gate we have a paint issue and a parts issue. So hopefully it gets better, but I'm going to have to continue this video when I have the right part, hopefully. So I had to stop my installation on Monday because the spacer that was included in the parts kit was incorrect. And I called customer service and they had said, we can't get tech support on the line, you're going to have to email tech support. They gave me the email address, so I sent tech support an email along with a photo. And all I got back was radio silence for a couple days. So I called customer service back on Wednesday and I said, hey, what's the deal? I haven't heard anything. I'm going to be leaving town. I'd like to get this installation finished. And she said, hang on. And she looked at my account and said, well, it looks like tech support got to your email and they agree it's a incorrect spacer and they're working with the warehouse to get it replaced. You should hear something tomorrow. If not, call us back. Nowhere, by the way, have I received an apology or any concern. This just seems like business as usual for customer service. And tech support, I guess you can't even talk to them. They have to email you. This is kind of disappointing to me because I've dealt with Rocky Mountain ATV a lot in the past, and I've always had great customer service. I've always been able to talk to tech support. They've always resolved my issues almost immediately. But here we are in a week-long process almost now, trying to get a correct part for a fairly spendy item that I purchased. And it's hard to talk to anybody, hard to get information. They're not communicating back to me. So the bottom line is I got a replacement spacer. It arrived late Friday, 5 days after my initial contact with tech support. But anyway, seems like I've got the part I need. Here's the spacer with a wider bore in it. So we're going to try to finish the installation. All right, so we're going to remove the seat bolts here. So next it says to place these spacers, now that I have both of them correct, where the old toolkit used to be. Then you set this cross brace on top, like so. These larger spacers go in the seat access, and then these bolts get just loosely threaded through, it says. Same thing on this side. All right. So the button head bolts get a washer, and then they go through the top. And then you have a couple of nylon lock nuts that are going to go on the underside of the fender on the other end of the M8 bolts. And again, we're just going to leave these loose like it says to. There we go. Alright, the next step is to remove the passenger foot pegs. So that takes an 8mm hex wrench. Alright, this is going to be the same on both sides. Alright, now we've got the left side. There we go. Both passenger foot pegs are off. The next step is to install this side rack. And it's going to fit on just like so. Let's try the top first. So the top gets put on with these hex head bolts and a lock nut. Alright, now that I've got one loose on the top, let's see if I can't get this. Alright, these button heads are 5mm, by the way. Alright, got all those in, just finger tight. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, all we need is this short M8 button head bolt, these two hex head flange bolts, and two lock nuts for those flange bolts. And what worked for me last time was to start with the top rearmost flange bolt. And again, I'm just going to get that finger tight. And now I'm going to put this button head bolt down where the foot peg used to be. Alright, what worked on the other side was to do it with the assistance of a hex wrench, so let's try that. Alright, and now I can put the last bolt on the cross brace up top. Where'd my nut go? There's the bolt. Alright, I'll be back when I find my nut. I found my nut. Of all the places, it landed on the rear brake caliper guard. Alright, right side is on, all the bolts are just loose. As you can see, that's what we have. Alright, the next step is going to be to loosely attach this rear brace. Like everything so far, it says to just leave this loose. To attach it, you use these smaller hex head bolts and the smaller lock nuts. And so we're going to put these on, just leave everything super loose. So now I'm just pissed because I am on step 8, I guess, place where I can install the actual top rack onto the cross brace. And I am supposed to have 4 of these M6 20mm countersunk bolts, and I have 2. I've got 4 of the nuts, but 2 of the bolts. So now I should have, I suppose, counted all my pieces the first time I was dealing with tech support. But now I'm going to have to contact them again and wait another almost week for them to send me the right stinking bolts. So, I mean, this is ridiculous. Rocky Mountain ATV makes this product. They have no one to blame but themselves. So I just got off the phone with customer support at Rocky Mountain ATV. Same goat rope again. So the customer support person called tech support, was told that he just needs to fill out a form, send it to tech support so tech support can call me. Apparently, I'm not allowed to talk to tech support myself, tell them exactly which 2 bolts that I'm missing, and have them drop it in the mail and I'll have it in a day or 2. No, they have to be sent a message. Tech support has to call me at their convenience, which earlier this last week was like 2 or 3 days later when they finally contacted me via email. So I can probably expect to have my 2 missing bolts in another 5 or 6 days if the last missing part is an indicator. Rocky Mountain, I hope you are listening, because this is unacceptable customer support. I don't get it. Like, I have to wait almost a week to get 2 missing bolts. The customer support rep didn't even care which bolts I was missing. He said, tech support will figure it out with me when they get around to calling me. So, thumbs down to Rocky Mountain ATV on this customer support. So far, the install, other than the missing parts, is going well. And in fact, I'm going to complete the install today, minus the 2 bolts that hold that top rack on, because there's 4 bolts that are needed. So the two bolts that I have should at least hold it in place probably well enough until the remaining 2 bolts get here. But I have to say, this whole process with Rocky Mountain ATV is just really annoying. And again, also not even one apology or any empathetic tone from the customer support rep. I don't understand that. So maybe I'm old school. Maybe Rocky Mountain is growing faster than they can handle. I don't know what their deal is, but somebody in their customer support department needs to get a handle on this. So that's all I'm going to say. I've beat that horse into the ground, so I'm going to finish the install. I'm basically just going to tighten all of the bolts that I've left loose, put that top rack on, and call it good until my missing bolts arrive, whenever that is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the installation with the bolts I have. I have 2 of the 4 bolts, which should at least hold the top rack in place until the replacement bolts get here. It looks straightforward. I just use these recessed bolts, drop them in place, 2 of the 4. These flange nuts require a 10mm box end wrench, and it is going to be tricky to get this in there. So what I'm going to do, try to hold this in place with the wrench, line it up, drop this in there, and that worked. Okay, 2 of the 4 bolts are on. Should hold it in place. Now I'm just going to go around and tighten up all these other nuts that I have left loose. And actually, I'm going to Loctite the bolts that go where the foot pegs used to be, because they don't have nylon lock nuts on them to hold them in place. The kit also included this. I'm guessing they are just the pieces that go in this quick release mechanism, but let's open it up just to make sure we know what's in here. And yes, that's exactly what it is. They are basically the brackets that go inside the Tusk boxes or any other aluminum boxes, or even Pelican cases, probably, whatever you wanted to mount onto those. So another update about my 2 missing bolts. It is 10 days after I first contacted Rocky Mountain ATV about them, and I finally received them today. after multiple emails, multiple phone calls, and this time they didn't express the 2 bolts to me. They dropped them in the snail mail first class. So yeah, 10 days later, I got my missing parts, which is, again, completely unacceptable. So to summarize my installation of the Tusk side racks and top rack, what I'll say is that I continue to be impressed with the value of the Tusk products. Their fit and finish isn't always perfect. There were some paint issues, a little paint bubbling here and there. On a previous bike, I had to actually drill out the Tusk side rack a little bit to get it to fit properly on the bike. You know, some things like that. But once it's on, I mean, the Tusk products are pretty bulletproof, especially for the money. So I do appreciate that about Tusk. What I didn't appreciate with this installation was Rocky Mountain ATV's customer support. That experience was horrible. Hopefully my experience is unique and other people aren't running into the same things with their customer support.